Hi everyone, it's Vesper. Long time no see. I know I'm always saying that. I'm sorry for being away for so long. My job has been really emotionally draining and I just haven't had the emotional availability to be on YouTube. But I'm back now. I couldn't let 2019 end without uploading at least one more video. But before I actually get to the topic of this video, I do want to bring up something else that's kind of current YouTube events. You may have heard about this already. It's regarding the FTC and COPPA. For those of you who don't know, the Federal Trade Commission, who is in charge of enforcing the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act here in the States, has just come to a settlement with YouTube, which has resulted in a lot of changes that will be going into effect on YouTube in January 2020. This has been kind of big news, especially if you're a YouTuber, you're probably paying attention to this. It should be on your radar, but I know that not everyone knows about it, so I wanted to bring it to people's attention in this video. While I am by no means an expert on anything legal, let alone the rules of YouTube, and I don't speak for LGBTQIA YouTubers in general, just me, myself, and I, but in having researched these rules that will be going into effect, in having looked into COPPA and all this stuff, I feel like these new rules have some real potential to seriously, adversely affect LGBTQIA YouTubers specifically, let alone YouTubers in general. And I am mildly concerned that, at least in my little corner of YouTube, I have not seen other LGBTQIA YouTubers really mention this on their channel yet. I mean, I do not see the entirety of YouTube, so I really don't know. I just want to bring it to your attention, to everyone else's attention, because I think this is really important stuff. Also, I dare say that a lot of you, and just a lot of people in general, may not know the kinds of things that LGBTQIA YouTubers, people on this channel like me, like you, everyday people, have had to put up with regards to YouTube and being on this platform over the past decade. The censorship, the demonetization, you may have heard demonetization stuff in the news in general in regards to YouTube, but specifically there's been stuff going on that relates back to the LGBTQIA community and YouTube, and I also want to bring that to people's attention. So, because I'm in between jobs right now and have a little bit more time on my hand, I sat down, researched COPPA, researched all kinds of shit, and wrote out a really long blog post for my reference as well as your reference, and anyone else who is interested in knowing a little bit more about YouTube and Google's relationship to the LGBTQIA community. Which isn't to say that the relationship is all negative, but there are a lot of things that I feel like more people need to know about. And I will put a link to that blog post in the description of this video. It should also pop up as a card if you're watching this on a computer. Definitely check it out, because I feel like it's really important, and I hope more people will know what's going on before things potentially get worse. Recently, I saw a meme going around on Twitter in which people listed the past decade year by year from 2011, and next to it they listed how they identified that particular year. So looking at the tweet, you can see the evolution of their identity, and I think that is really cool. If you followed my channel for any length of time, then you know that I'm all about the whole introspective identity stuff. So I jumped on the bandwagon and retweeted it with my own progression of identity over the past 9 years. It was a really fun, introspective little exercise that I enjoyed, and I recommend anyone else interested in that kind of thing, join in, do it for yourself. It's nice to reflect back in that way, at least for me. I will put a link to my tweet in the description of this video. Coincidentally, a post where I also did something similar back in 2016 has recently been gaining traction on Tumblr again, to my surprise, because that's a really old post now, but it's still totally relevant. In that post, I titled it Identity as a Journey, and I made this colorful graphic describing the evolution of my own personal journey with identity, be it gender or sexuality or both, and how, regardless of how my identity has changed over the years since I've come out to myself, queer is always relevant to me, regardless of how I'm feeling in any particular moment, how I'm relating to the world. I'll put a link to that post in the description of this video as well, well. But anyways, those two things have been on my radar recently, and so I thought it might make for an equally interesting but even more cringeworthy introspective exercise to maybe post something similar here on YouTube. So I thought I'd go through my past videos and try and piece together a video collage or whatever of my journey in terms of identity. I think that's a nice way to close off this decade of my life and look forward to the next one. So here are a bunch of clips of cringeworthy past me for my personal amusement and reference as well as yours. I am cringing along with you.
Ni mette kristnaskan musikon in la filmo sed mi nenion havas. Saluton nove, se vi festas kristnaskon, mi esperas ke vi havis bonan kristnaskon. Baldaŭ komencos noviaro, kaj mi volas deziri al ĉiuj bonan feliĉan noviaron. Here I am showing off my newest toy, or rather I should say camera. It's a vintage camera. Don't know if you can see that very well. It's a Balda Super Baldex. Opens like this. Awesome, huh? Ugh. And close it like this. Hello, my name's nighstar. I just got my OtterBox Defender case for the Galaxy Note 2 in today. After I posted my video on the OtterBox Defender case for the Galaxy Note 2 a couple of days ago, I got a lot of questions, so I thought I'd make a video addressing some of those questions. Hello, and welcome to Queer as Cat, my new channel about stuff. My name is nighstar. I'm 27, turning 28 next month. I'm an American living in Australia, and I identify as a panromantic, although I also identify with biromantic, asexual, and gender-wise currently undecided. And when I found the term demisexuality, I thought that fit me to a freaking T. I thought that the feelings that I had for my partners and what, allowed me to be okay with sex was actual sexual attraction. So I identified as demisexual for a little while and then came to realize that me being okay with having sex was simply me being okay with having sex. It wasn't because I was attracted to my partner. And finally, this is just a couple of months ago, I decided to identify as asexual. 11 years to identify as asexual. Finally there, yeah, fucking proud. I don't identify as female. I am a biological female. My sex is female, but not my gender identity, nor my gender expression. As of yet, I haven't found any one particular word that I identify with, so I've just been going with the term gender neutral. I feel that I am not male, neither am I female. I am not a mix of male and female. I'm not like if there was a gender continuum with male on one end and female on the other. I'm not in the middle. I'm nowhere on this at all. I'm completely outside of it. What's the word for that? I don't really identify as trans either. I don't feel like there's any trans element to my identity. And when I say trans here, I mean the literal definitions of trans. There has been, there will be, there isn't any going from A to B. For example, I'm not going from a gender identity of female to a gender identity of something else. I'm not going from anything to anything. I've always been who I am. I always will be who I am. I feel like everything that I've been through has just been me growing as a person. It's been an evolution of me rather than a transition from this to this. The only word that I think comes closest to describing how I feel is the word neutral. Because of what other people associate with this gender identity, I don't feel that comfortable identifying as it, and I know that's crap, and I'm hoping that I can get past that because I do like this term and I do think it probably describes me pretty well. My identity encompasses a lot more than just my sexual orientation and my gender. When I use the word queer to describe myself or put a label to my identity, I use it to mean more than just those two things. To elaborate on that, one example, and this is just one example, is my relationship with the social norms within my ethnic group. A lot of people feel or are called strange, abnormal. They feel like an outsider because of who they love or because of their gender. And I have grown up feeling similarly in regards to my ethnicity, or rather the social norms of my ethnic group. Sometimes I really have to fight the urge to drop some of my personal labels, because as liberating as they may feel sometimes, they also sometimes feel like huge weights on my shoulder. It's a pain sometimes for me to have to use so many labels to describe my orientations and my gender. Sometimes I just want to identify as queer and leave it at that. Or sometimes I just want to be Vesper and forget all the freaking labels. I'm just me. And if you want to get to know me, then yeah, get to know me, and then you can find out how I identify and stuff like that. But then I have to remember why I adopted those labels in the first place, why I in fact make these videos and maintain my Tumblr account. Many things have helped me along the way, blogs, articles, videos, but if it weren't for labels, if it weren't for other people using these labels and using these labels to discuss the things that these labels enable them to discuss, I wouldn't have met all the wonderful people that I have. I wouldn't be where I am now in my life, as comfortable with myself as I am. Things would be completely different. Actually, my gender itself hasn't changed at all. I feel like my gender is very static and very clear-cut. It hasn't ever changed insofar as I'm aware. But what has changed is the word that I'm using to describe that gender, because I feel like neutra is no longer accurate. When I finally stopped ignoring my gender and started researching gender identity, neutra was the only gender that I found that resonated with me at all. Even though, even back then, I knew that it didn't perfectly describe my gender. So after a year of trying to reconcile the incongruities that I felt with my neutra identity, I'm finally too tired of doing so. I feel like I shouldn't have to wiggle my way into a gender identity. If I identify as something, it should fit. So in the end, what did I do? I coined my own word, because there is no existing word that fits. And that word is Maverick. My name is Vesper, and I'm a 29-year-old American living and working in Japan, at the moment anyway. I'm a panromantic, biromantic, asexual. I'm also non-binary, more specifically Maverick. Please refer to me with they, them, their pronouns. I am biromantic and panromantic, and probably gray romantic, but that's a topic for a different video and a different day. Many people are often confused about why I identify as both bi and pan at the same time. I mean, there are numerous reasons why someone might be multi-oriented, and I just pulled that word out of my ass. Hopefully, given the context, you understand what I mean by that. Personally, there's more than one reason why I identify as both at the same time. One is because both accurately describe me. They both accurately describe who I'm attracted to. And there's literally no reason why I should choose one or the other, one over the other, if both describe me. I'm non-binary, more specifically Maverick. And chances are you've never heard of Maverick before, so let me break it down for you. Maverick, for me, means that I am not only non-binary, but that my gender identity has absolutely nothing to do with either binary gender or the whole concept of binary anything, male or female, masculine or femininity. Even non-binary genders can still have some sort of relationship with the gender binary. For example, if you're bigender or gender fluid and one or more of your genders are male or female, there's still a relationship with the gender binary. For me, Maverick means that I'm not genderless, I'm not gender neutral, and I'm not any gender that draws upon or references at all male or female, masculinity or femininity. And yeah, I know that might be hella confusing, it probably is, but That's my identity. For those of you who don't know me because you just stumbled onto this video thanks to the hashtag, my name is Vesper and I am proud to be everything that I am, which includes black, non-binary, bi, pan, and asexual. I am proud as hell to be Maverick, i.e. non-binary, one of the numerous genders that exist outside of society's male and female dichotomy. I am proud to love who I love, and that just happens to include people of any gender in ways that do not involve sexual attraction and not even necessarily romantic attraction. I am proud to be all of this and black at the same time because all too often stereotypes and racism attempt to ignore, erase, and delegitimize people, black people like myself. It took me 26 years to accept myself for who I am and even longer to be proud and out about who I am. I personally don't identify as trans and I never have in the 4 years that I've identified as non-binary. A common definition of trans is someone whose gender or sex differs from the gender or sex they were assigned at birth. Based on that definition of trans can totally describe me, but a definition is one thing and an identity is another thing, and there are just some related aspects of trans identity, such as narratives, assumptions, implications, even linguistic stuff, that makes it uncomfortable for me to identify as trans because I actively disassociate with some of those things. So while yes, the word trans may describe me, I never refer to myself as trans, even though other people do refer to me as trans. And sometimes I actively correct people when they refer to me as trans, sometimes I let it slide. It depends on the person, the situation, the context, a million different things, even just whether I feel like dealing with that or not. It occurred to me relatively recently, I guess because I'm slow about these things, I guess, that a lot of, if not the majority of my attraction that I felt in the past actually wasn't attraction at all, but rather was gender envy or gender admiration, I guess. As someone who's both non-binary and asexual, I feel like both of those things played a big part in me confusing gender envy with attraction. I was quick to chalk up the various feelings that I've had towards people to the various types of attraction, and I thought everything was squared away nice and neat, or actually not neat at all, but squared away at least. But now thinking back on it more, I feel like maybe a lot of what I assumed to be aesthetic attraction was actually not attraction at all, and some of it wasn't even about aesthetics. Like, it's gotten to the point where I've had to like stop myself and rethink things like, was I ever aesthetically attracted to men like I assumed I had been? Or was it all just some degree, level, form of gender envy, gender admiration? But see, this is where my actual gender comes into play and where things get really, really mind-fucking for me, because I am not a man in any way, nor do I identify as masculine at all. And so to realize and acknowledge that I have some level, some form, some amount of gender envy or admiration for people who are male or masculine, it just really, really fucks me up. No matter what I say, no matter how I express myself, no matter how I exist as a person in the world, I am always seen as nothing more than a tomboy, a stud, a soft butch at most. Even androgyny is unattainable for me because, you know, androgyny doesn't look like me in the eyes of society. I will always be seen as a girl or a woman first until such a point in time as I happen to cross this magical line within somebody's mind that puts me in the realm of passing as the man that I am not. Because, you know, there's only women and men. I don't actually exist. While many people fight just to have their womanhood recognized, I'm sitting here fucking drowning in it because society won't let me out of it. I celebrate womanhood, but when other people try to insist upon that womanhood encompassing me, then I
really fucking have a problem. I don't identify as biromantic or panromantic anymore. There, I said it. I haven't identified as biromantic or panromantic for quite a while now, actually. That's the thing. I have been relatively open about this on Tumblr, but when it comes to YouTube, I have not mentioned it at all. I have not even hinted at the fact that I've been questioning for years now, honestly. But today, I am going to try and touch upon one of the main reasons why I now identify as a bi-ace rather than a biromantic ace, as a pan-ace rather than a panromantic ace, and what the difference between these things are for me, and why, more than anything, I'm most apt to introduce myself as a queer ace, or just simply queer. I wish that romantic attraction wasn't assumed unless explicitly denied. Often, I just identify as queer. It is no less accurate than queer ace, than bi-ace, than the long list of terms, identities that I have. I could just say queer, and it's that much simpler and not any less true. I may happen to have a high libido at the moment, but I'm still asexual. Which isn't to say that my ace identity hasn't changed at all since starting T, but rather that my identity and my relationship with my own sexuality has been and always will be a work in progress, growing and evolving with me as I grow and evolve as a person. Being on T has brought me face to face with a lot of different things in general, but also just about myself personally, and so I feel like I have learned a lot about myself over the past 6 or so months that I've been on T. And it's been really interesting to say the least, but none of it has made me feel like asexual no longer describes me. As someone who is both black, which is often seen as being political just by existing, and as someone who is non-binary, which is also seen as a political stance by some people, just by existing. What am I to do but dwell on this topic and think too much about it? My race and my gender are very much tied up in my hair, whether I want them to be or not, and that's just a fact of life for me. Long story short, I needed to change my name in Nevada because it was easier to do in Nevada than Washington, but I had to do it from afar. So yeah, it took about a month to change my name. When it came to gender marker changes, I couldn't change my gender marker because changing it would not do me any good in Washington. While Nevada recognized X as a gender on driver's licenses, Washington does not yet recognize X. And so even if I did get an X driver's license in Nevada, once I converted my Nevada driver's license to a Washington driver's license, that X would have to be changed to an M or an F. I can change my gender to X on my birth certificate, and I do intend to change my gender marker to X on my birth certificate at some point. It's just not the biggest of priorities for me right now. I feel so incredibly fortunate that Nevada has made these massive steps since I first looked into changing my name back in 2014. Identity, much like life itself, is a journey. I know I'm not the only one who has grown a lot over the past decade. This past decade has been a whirlwind, really. I've been all over the world. I felt all kinds of ways. I've been super low as well as high, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years to come and growing and discovering even more about myself. Hopefully I'll be here on YouTube doing it, but we'll see. Either way, I'll be around, and I look forward to seeing you all next year. Happy New Year. Take care of yourself. See you next time.